Hello, South Florida. I'm Jim Barry. Welcome once again to Miami Life, the show that takes a closer look at life here in South Florida. Every week, we're telling you what's going on and what's on the mind of folks here in Miami-Dade and Broward. And we lead off today with TPS and the anxiety in South Florida in its Haitian and Venezuelan communities. Another lawsuit has been filed against the Trump administration for rolling back TPS. If that legal challenge fails, TPS will end for Haitians in August. South Florida is home to the largest Haitian community in the United States, and as Yvonne Taylor tells us, a cloud of fear and uncertainty now hangs over it.
I am a TPS recipient, and I am legal.
That is how 25-year-old Tasha feels after the Trump administration announced it's rolling back the 18-month protection of TPS for her and at least 500,000 other Haitians in the U.S.
Which is sending us Haitians back home would mean sending us to a non-livable country.
To send them back to a country still grappling with the aftermath of a devastating earthquake, political unrest, and economic hardship is both inhumane and unjust.
About the decision to roll back TPS for Haiti, Homeland Security said through a statement, for decades the TPS system has been exploited and abused. For example, Haiti has been designated for TPS since 2010. The data shows each extension of the country's TPS designation allow more Haitian nationals, even those who enter the U.S. illegally, to qualify for legal protected status.
You look at the document that they submitted yesterday to talk about why they're shortening the time period for Haiti. There is not one word in there. Not one word about the conditions in Haiti. And that's what temporary protected status is about.
Immigration attorney Ira Kurzban said that was one of the reasons the Haitian community would sue the Trump administration.
He can't find those millions of people who are criminals. It's taking legal people who have legal status here, taking it away from them so he can fulfill his promise.
Once we get to August of 2025, what's going to happen to you?
I don't know. There's no other solution, and I'm not looking for other solution. It will mean for me to go back home.
That was Yvonne Taylor reporting. Joining us now is Jacquelin Charles, the Miami Herald's Caribbean correspondent. She has covered Haiti and other nations in the Caribbean for years, and I appreciate you so much coming in because you know so much about this topic. I know that your newspaper has invited readers to reach out with their concerns. What are some of the issues that they say they're most worried about?
Well, people are most worried about what does this mean? You know, what should I be doing, or what happens to me after the 3rd of August? I mean, right now, everything is indicating that they will roll it back. I think that people need to keep their eyes on some lawsuits which have started to be filed, and others will come. But in all practicality, you know, if August 3rd comes and you are out of status, you have to remind yourself that if you are stopped and you don't have documentation of your legal status in this country, you could be fast-tracked to deportation.
Wow. So the Biden administration initially granted TPS through, I think, the early part of 2026. The Trump administration rolled it back for Haitians to August. Legally, can they do that?
So that is a very good question about legally, because TPS is the prerogative, you know, of the president. And what we saw was that in his first term, President Trump just did away with it. And so there was a lawsuit, and eventually the lawyers and those plaintiffs, they won, but they used the whole idea that this was, you know, racism, this was racial animus. We are watching to see on what grounds that they're going to do, but what we're seeing is that this administration is a lot smarter than they were the first time around, and they're using existing laws. For instance, if you have been in this country for less than 2 years, even with some sort of legal status, you can be expedited to removal. And so because people came in under this humanitarian parole program, either called the Biden program, but it's for Cubans, Haitians, Nicaraguans, and Venezuelans, this now puts you in a pool of individuals who basically could be targeted for deportation, regardless of your status.
And there's no way for them to suddenly fast-track their way to become legal, right?
Well, you know, initially, you know, advocates were telling individuals, you know, look, if you have a parent or you're married, or if you have a way to get a legal pathway, because a lot of people came in because they had that pathway, or you can apply for asylum, you have a case, go ahead and do so. Now what we've seen, the administration has shut that down. So even under the Cuban Adjustment Act, which means that if you've been here for 1 year or 1 day, you should be able to adjust your status. Now we're hearing that no, that even that for individuals who came under humanitarian parole. So there's a lot of stuff out there, and I think that people really need to, go talk to a lawyer, not your notary, not the guy across the street, not your friends, but they really need to get some legal advice to understand what their options are.
How many Haitians in South Florida potentially are affected by this?
Well, what we know is that there are more than 500,000 Haitians who are under TPS or who qualify for TPS. Another 220,000 came under the Biden, were part of the Biden parole program. So within that 500,000 plus. We really don't have an idea in terms of South Florida. We know that this is the largest Haitian American community because of the housing prices and the cost of living. A lot of people left here. But we expect that tens of thousands of Haitians in this community are affected. Even if they are not personally, their family members are in this situation. Another headline we saw, the Supreme Court forcing the Trump administration to unfreeze foreign aid. I know USAID has had a big hand in getting help to the Haitian people in Haiti. How big of an impact? Well, the problem is that a lot of people who are there to implement those programs have been fired. And so I've been watching this issue very carefully in Haiti because it's affecting, access to HIV/AIDS treatment. It's affecting, potable water for the more than 1 million people who have been forced to flee their homes. I mean, it affects the Haitian healthcare system. But okay, so now we've unfrozen. Advocates are saying this is a great thing, but who's going to be there to implement or to make the payments? Wow. Some NGOs have completely shut down their operations. Wow. So someone here come August, and if they're told they have to leave and they don't want to go back to Haiti, feeling it's too dangerous, where can they go? I'm not a lawyer. I mean, we've seen reports. We know in the past what happened. People tried to flee to other places, but it's a very difficult situation for people to be in because the reality is that gangs now control as much as 90% of Port-au-Prince, and only 27% of the healthcare system in the entire country is even functioning. As I just told you, the situation in camps, many of these people, they no longer have homes because gangs have taken over their homes. So the question really is that if they are forced to go back, what are they going back to? Yeah, that is a frightening reality for so many. Jacquelin, Charles, thank you so much for sharing your expertise. And of course, we're going to stay on top of this story because it does impact so many people here in South Florida. Thank you so much. Thank you. All right. Well, the death this week of former U.S. Congressman Lincoln Diaz-Balart was felt all across South Florida. He was a tireless advocate for human rights and democracy and crossed party lines in Washington to champion immigration rights and regime change in Cuba. Elliot Rodriguez takes a look back at his life and impact.
Lincoln Diaz-Balart represented South Florida in Congress for 18 years. Before that, he served in the Florida legislature. Known as a hardline opponent of socialist regimes, especially in his native Cuba, he led efforts in Congress to tighten the U.S. embargo against the island.
Before any U.S. president can lift the embargo, all political prisoners must be freed. All political parties, labor unions, and the press must be legalized.
Diaz-Balart led the effort to move SOUTHCOM, the U.S. military Southern Command headquarters, from Panama to South Florida. He also authored the Nicaraguan Adjustment and Central American Relief Act. Congresswoman Debbie Wasserman Schultz called him a freedom fighter.
The privilege that I had to learn from him, to receive guidance and advice from him, and to develop such a rich and deep relationship and friendship that it essentially erased party lines when it came to the work that he and his brother Mario and I did together.
Politics was in Diaz-Balart's blood. His father, Rafael, was a politician in Cuba, an outspoken opponent of Fidel Castro. His brother, Mario, serves in Congress and sent out a statement from the Diaz-Balart family. Lincoln's profound love for the United States, it says, and his relentless commitment to the cause of a free Cuba guided him throughout his life and his 24 years in elected public service, including 18 years in the U.S. House of Representatives. Former Miami Congresswoman Ileana Ros-Lehtinen, who worked closely with Lincoln Diaz-Balart in Washington and Tallahassee, said the oppressed people of Cuba had no greater advocate for their freedom than Lincoln. He was the intellectual giant among us. On a personal level, I will miss our conversations and the wise counsel he always provided to me. The second Cuban American to serve in Congress, following in the footsteps of Ros-Lehtinen, Diaz-Balart served as a mentor to a new generation of political leadership.
What I will miss most about him is his sense of humor. He was actually a really funny guy, and also just being a great human being. He was always giving, a very generous person with a great sense of humor, loved life, and also was a great husband, father, and brother.
And joining us now, Elliot Rodriguez with more of a deep dive on Lincoln Diaz-Balart. He never stopped fighting for a free Cuba.
He never did, Jim, and I think a very important part of Lincoln Diaz-Balart's legacy is that the U.S. embargo against Cuba cannot be removed unless it's an act of Congress. Before his involvement in passing legislation in Washington, a president could have reversed the embargo, but now it takes an act of Congress because it's been codified as a result of Lincoln Diaz-Balart's efforts in Washington.
Of course, what was going on in Cuba was always been top of mind for folks here in South Florida, but he made sure that it was top of mind to people elsewhere, didn't he?
He did, and he always worked across the aisle in order to get legislation that was putting pressure on the government in Cuba, and also anti-democratic moves in other parts of the world, Central America notably, Nicaragua, and in Venezuela. He had a big personality, and when he arrived, I know Maribel Rodriguez was live at Versailles' coffee shop, where you've been there too, getting coffee there. Everybody noticed Lincoln Diaz-Balart there. Everybody flocked to him, and he always had time to talk to anybody who approached him.
And you talked about that, certainly a drawback to the old days when politicians did talk more across the aisle.
Isn't that something? Politicians who would compromise, this is my position, that's your position, let's try to meet halfway. Or support me on this bill that I'm trying to get by, this legislation, I'll support you on your legislation, which is what our political leaders should be doing.
All right, Lincoln Diaz-Balart, certainly gone, but not forgotten, and his legacy will live on here in South Florida.
Our condolences to his family.
Absolutely. Elliot, thank you. Well, up next, South Florida traffic is seeming as though it's mostly unavoidable. Or is it? Find out what some people are doing to avoid gridlock along one of the busiest roads in the country. And also meet the woman who puts a happy face to bring smiles to ailing children at Joe DiMaggio's Children's Hospital. Miami Life, coming right back. All right, talk about some breaking news, or not really. Traffic in South Florida is horrendous, and one stretch of road is especially tough. We're talking about US 1 through Coconut Grove. The gridlock is so bad there, some drivers have had enough and are taking drastic measures. That's right, they're taking public transportation. Austin Carter explains.
Between the stoplights and honking car horns, US 1 in Coconut Grove can be a tough spot. And nothing makes the congestion feel worse than looking up and seeing this. Metro rail trains breezing by every few minutes.
It just becomes a little bit simpler. I can get to work. I literally work on Bird and 99th.
Commuters like this at the Douglas Road Station take the Metro rail daily on the stretch running along US 1.
Aside from the traffic, you actually get to see some of the nice sights that's out the windows.
And one of those sights is the congestion below. The most recent INRIX Global Traffic Scorecard finding that southbound US 1 between I-95 and Southwest 42nd Street ranks in the top 25 busiest corridors in the country. The worst time, 8 a.m. The study reports commuters losing 53 hours in traffic here in 2023.
US 1 is always congested.
Tala Habash is with Transit Alliance, a nonprofit group advocating for public transit access across South Florida. She works remotely and prefers the Metro Rail than sitting in traffic on US 1.
You think you're going to get there faster by taking your car, but really you're adding that traffic, but also the stress of driving.
Data shows more people are turning to transit in Miami-Dade County. Metro Rail ridership increasing 11% last year. County data showing some of their busiest stations so far this year were right along the US 1 stretch, including Douglas Road, Dadeland North, and Dadeland South stations.
It's better than not having it here, because for people that don't have cars, that don't have methods of getting around.
Tala says ridership will climb as transit becomes more competitive.
So that means expanding the Metro Rail along the SMART plan to reach FIU, to reach down Flagler, to go more north to areas that can serve people in Wynwood. So things like that, that connectivity and access really allows people to make that choice more seamlessly.
That was Austin Carter reporting. So, where does Miami traffic rank globally? Well, it's actually the 14th busiest city in the world, which is a slight improvement from the previous year when Miami was ranked 11th. All right, still to come, meet a woman who traded in her medical scrubs for a clown costume.
I just want to get in my car and drive to work, and I want to promote love and happiness.
That's exactly what she does, and she did it to put smiles on the faces of ailing children. We'll tell you all about Lotsy Dotsy when Miami Life returns. Welcome back to Miami Life. Our person of interest today is a woman who has been spreading joy at Joe DiMaggio Children's Hospital for decades. As my colleague Erica Gonzalez tells us, she learned a long time ago that laughter and smiles and a little clowning around can sometimes be the best medicine.
Linda Herbert started off in the health field as a respiratory therapist, but along the way, she found a different way to help patients feel better.
So I took a little clown course at Broward Community College back in 1986.
She used her newly acquired skills and gear to volunteer at Memorial Regional Hospital as Lotsy Dotsy.
We did bubbles, we did magic. It was so much fun.
The clown act was a hit, and in the early 90s, Herbert permanently swapped the scrubs for a clown suit when hospital leadership at Joe DiMaggio's hired her to be their very first full-time clown.
I just want to get in my car and drive to work, and I want to promote love and happiness.
For 36 years, she's been clowning around the halls of this hospital, giving sick patients a reason to smile. Patients like Nicolette Schulman.
She's very kind. I love her.
She looks forward to playtime with Lotsy at the hospital.
She always blows bubbles, and she puts songs on. I really like.
Her father Mark appreciates the lighter moments as his little girl battles cancer.
She just brings a smile to everyone's face, including ours. They did a really good job with serving. I guess there's the emotional side to this journey. So Lotsy's basically the hub of the wheel, and everyone else kind of spokes off of her.
Alan Greisman, a pediatric ICU doctor, has had a first row seat to Lotsy sharing her love and light.
We just owe a debt of gratitude to Lotsy for being who she is and how much she cares and all she's done over the years.
Herbert recognized a long time ago Lotsy Dotsy is a gift to others, and playing this beloved character would be her life's greatest joy.
My mom always said, when you find your purpose, you'll do it with your heart and soul. And I think I found my purpose here at Memorial Healthcare System, Joe DiMaggio Children's Hospital, that's for sure.
Erica Gonzalez, CBS News, Miami.
Lotsy Dotsy bringing lots of smiles for a long time. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Miami Life. You know, once upon a time, Jai-Alai was a popular pastime here in South Florida. But now the sport may be on its way out of Florida entirely. Trish Christakis explains why and where the sport may be headed.
Jai-Alai's been in South Florida for 101 years. Last year was the centennial anniversary. So we're going to do everything in our power to keep it here. But we'll keep the sport alive at all costs, so if we have to go somewhere else, we will.
Miami is the only World Jai-Alai League in America. Locations like Las Vegas and Rhode Island are interested in making World Jai-Alai the new American home city. But players wanted to stay here.
We were born and raised here in Miami. Obviously, it started from the Basque Country. But just to get to the point, I'm confident that we're going to have a place, if it's here or anywhere else, as long as the sport is being able to be seen by the fans.
They've been playing here at Magic City Casino since 2018. The lease expires at the end of the year, and the current owners do not want to renew.
Well, the fronton itself, the court that we play on, has a 7-month lead time to actually order a new court. We'll be playing in the beginning of 2026, so we probably have to have something by June absolutely finalized.
This is the first time the future of Jai-Alai was questioned in the 101 years being played in South Florida.
All of our players are based here in South Florida. They have families, they have wives, they have children. So moving out of South Florida will be somewhat of a hardship, but I think the players are committed to doing what they have to do to keep the sport alive.
With this sport being a huge part of Miami culture, they hope a venue locally makes an offer. So next year, they can celebrate 102 years in Miami. At Magic City Casino, Trish Christakis, CBS News, Miami.
Certainly not easy, that's for sure. That is a wrap for this week's Miami Life. Remember, we'll see you every Thursday for Miami Life at 6:30 on the stream. And you can also watch all Miami Life episodes on demand on our YouTube channel. I'm Jim Berry. Thanks for watching. We'll see you later.